welcome to a video where we're going to start building from scratch a construction right the way through to putting flowers in. So let's get cracking with that. I've got some pieces of hazel here, and as you can see I've got various different sizes, and what I'm going to do is with my hot melt glue gun is I'm just going to put a little bit of a blob on, and on we go. Now, I do think of this as quite an environmentally friendly design because actually once we've done this, we will be using it time and time again. And if you're thinking, well, Tracy, how are flowers involved with this? That's because we're going to be adding these tubes in. Now, hopefully these tubes look glass. They're actually perspex, so we don't need to worry too much about them breaking, or for that matter, us putting hot glue onto them. So let's have that along the side. Now I am also thinking as I do this about some of our design principles. It's me saying that. I've got a little knot on the wood which was stopping that just fixing it too closely, but let me show you. When I then put the next piece of wood against it, it's very seldom that they fall over actually when I glue them, but perhaps it's a good thing that that happened whilst I'm showing you, because now you know that actually avoid those knots and you're going to be quite safe and secure there. And as I said then, adding that next piece of wood to it is going to give it added security again. And I was just starting to say about design principles because I am thinking a little bit about transition, and what we mean by that is in this instance that I'm going to have the height in the middle and I'm going to be bringing it down to smaller levels. And so whilst I don't want it too contrived, I do want to try and get the smaller heights around the outside. So let me see, I'm going to bring this one in, which is quite a contrast in height to the one by its side. But like I said, to stop it being too contrived, then that's going to be good for us. Let me just show you these sizes as well. So you saw the 10 centimetre. I've also got 7.5 centimetre and 5 centimetre tubes. And using the variation of those sizes is going to give us a nice design. Now, you can see here, my pieces of hazel are reasonably chunky. If you're thinking, well, hang on, Tracy, where do I get hold of those? You can buy them commercially. But also, if you know of somewhere where there's some hazel or a hazel coppice, they need to be managed. They need to be cut back every couple of years. So don't ever be afraid of saying to somebody, if you know whose hazel it is, oh, would it be okay if I were to go and chop a little bit of the hazel? That's exactly what I did to get these pieces. And you know what? The neighbour was so grateful. He said, I haven't done it this year. That would be fantastic. So just, yeah, don't be afraid to ask. Let's get another tube in here. We've got a few seconds with the hot glue just to reposition things a little bit before they go off there. If you don't have a hot glue gun, by the way, cold glue. This is Oasis, but Floral cold glue. In actual fact, any cold glue would be fine. You could use wood glue for this. You could just use bog standard PVA glue. Obviously, it wouldn't be quite so quick, but it would do the job for you. So let's get this in place. So yes, chunky wood, it is around and about, so don't be afraid to ask. However, with that said, you can also use smaller pieces. There's nothing to say that they need to be as chunky as these are. Why not use much smaller pieces? In which case, all you need is a good sturdy pair of secateurs and a strong pair of hands, perhaps a willing helper. So that was a very much smaller piece. And obviously just a good pair of secateurs would be fine then. So let's see, let's get some more of these tubes in. I'm gonna go for a smaller one here. And then when it comes to the design, which we will come on to shortly, I think this style of design lends itself very nicely. Do you know what? That's a little bit big for where I intended, so I'm going to go for a smaller piece. Yes, these designs, I think, lend themselves very, very nicely to just a few wildflowers or flowers from the garden. It's your design. You can choose whatever it is that you'd like to go in there. Because if you were to have an orchid plant that all of the buds are gone, you've been given a new one, for example, and you're thinking, I think I don't need that one any longer, then you could put a few orchid heads in here. So it could be really quite contemporary. But I am a country girl through and through. So I'm going to go for a bit more of a country feel with the flowers that I'm using. In we go. Okay, we are getting there. I can feel that my glue's getting quite low, so I'm going to pop another tube in. Tip with just hot glue guns, try and get the glue sticks in just as soon as you can, because actually it just warms them up, even just being in the glue before it goes down to the chamber, and therefore it just makes it all a bit easier. So it's really just the last few pieces here, so I can start being a bit more particular about which pieces go where. Let's have you there. Now I've got a little bit of moss to go over, to go in some of the holes and around the edge, which I can then just literally poke in for us. Yeah, we're looking quite good there. Let me see. Do you know what? I'm going to leave it there, and I'll tell you why, because actually I don't want to lose the form and the shape of the circle too much. I'd rather have gaps which I fill with moss than actually have the sticks hanging over the side and losing the form of the base quite so much. So with regards to the moss, I am just going to be using some reindeer moss, or Icelandic moss, some people call it. This is preserved. The reason I'm smiling to myself is because you always know when you've used this. If you happen to put, and this is something we all need to be terribly conscious of at the moment, but if you ever put your fingers in your mouth after you've used this, you know about it. It really, I don't entirely know what it is, what the preserving agent is, but it doesn't taste very nice, I'll tell you that much. I have got a little cocktail or barbecue stick here just to help me poke a few pieces in, but I'm not going to worry about it hugely for the purposes of today. I try not to do this too much. Do you know what though? It's your design, so you do what you prefer, but can you see here that I've got one piece overlapping another? And I don't want to see that glue. So actually in this instance, I am going to use the moss just to hide that a little bit. And of course that's fine because it's going to be bringing it right the way through the design. So just for speed, I am going to whiz through and just put a couple more pieces in here just because I want it to look just nice for us. Some moss in most of the places, and now I'm just filling up the tubes just with a touch of water for the purposes of today. Obviously, once you've got the flowers in there, you can put in the water so that the water level's nice and high. So what flowers are we using? I kind of gave you the heads up, didn't I, that I'm going for quite wild looking flowers, and you can't get much more wild than this, can you? So I'm literally just going to use some beautiful clover that I've picked. I'm going to keep it fairly low though. And with this one, I'm going to keep the form as well. So the shape that we have. Look at this grass, isn't it just so pretty? I love it. I think it's really dainty. Foliage wise, I've got a little bit of heuchera from the garden. This one's called Marmalade. And I'm just twisting the leaves there a little bit to get your eye going in the right direction. It's amazing how just using or just rotating a leaf even, you can kind of manipulate the way people look at a design. So you can imagine if the leaf's pointing that way, you're almost going to be getting their eye to shoot out of the design. Whereas actually, if I put it that way round, they're going to be looking into it. As we come further to the outside, I am more than happy, let's pop that one there, for them to then start looking towards the edge here. Where this is quite a strong colour, I don't want to go too crazy with it. And I'm almost looking for one now that has that tilt to it. Okay. I have got some rather dainty, look at these, the last of my Clematis montana. And these little beauties are also just going to go into those tubes as well. So let's see, I've got a longer stem here, so let's use the height of that one to our advantage. Obviously, perhaps you can go and buy some flowers, but with this one I really wanted to not have to put my hand in my pocket at all, and I don't have a garden that I can pick from too much, but I do go and walk the dog and I do find the most amazing grasses like this. So let's pop a few of those in as well. Now let's just review our situation. I've only got a couple of pieces of clover in so far, so let's have few more. That's a nice buddy one. Incidentally, let me just point out to you what I have done here is I've removed quite a lot of the foliage, and that's important for a couple of reasons. Firstly, that I actually don't want too much foliage to disturb the eye. If you have too much going on, then it gets very, very busy. I'm actually looking at those two clematis together and thinking that that's a little bit busy. But also, the other reason why it's worthwhile to remove the foliage is because it takes up an awful lot of the water. And actually, in this instance, especially where we've got the smaller tubes, it's worthwhile just bearing that in mind as well. So I am literally just going to finish this one off now with a couple of pieces of grasses, and I will show you the finished design in just one moment. So I'm now just going in with the last couple of flowers, and I was in two minds whether I was going to use this Penstanum Hot Lips, but I have decided to do so. It's quite a good blender colour-wise between our heuchera. It's a real injection, isn't it, of colour. And again, taking those side branches off, it's not going to come through. The flowers are going to be too immature. And just take up that water and take almost the energy away from the other materials. Obviously, when you do this, you're going to be taking very much longer, and you can make sure that it's absolutely perfect. But as a quickie there, I hope that gives you the idea of one way that we can use this. And I am going to, in true Blue Peter style, show you the same concept, the same construction, but used in a slightly different way. And that is with our chappy here. So as you can see, it's very much different from the point of view that we've gone for a bit more of a country meadow feel to it. And if it looks like I've just gone along the side of the road and picked grass, you're absolutely right. However, I have been quite selective in my grass picking. As we saw in the last one, I've got this wonderful, slightly cascading almost grass, which gives lovely natural movement. I've got the form that's already in here, which is quite a strong form, kind of draws your attention quite a lot. I have the beautiful cow parsley, which I think is just delightful in this instance. There we go. In we go. Go on, give it a little wiggle. Do you know what? Before I get too carried away with the grass, I will maybe just put one or two more pieces of cow parsley in. There's just something that I want to point out to you, which is that when you look at them closely, come on, they're very friendly with one another. You'll see that there's a mature head on it, which comes out first. Now, as we go through from kind of early summer to later summer, they lose their flower heads, but this form here is actually very interesting as well and very pretty. And they just do it so naturally. If you've never arranged a flower before in your life, do you know what? You can't go wrong with this. Look, they dance for you. They're really, really pretty. And I've got as well some gorgeous Viburnum opulus. And as before, what I've done, can you see how much foliage I've removed? This is going to do nothing but take up water. So not only for the water, but for the clarity. When you're looking at the design, we don't want our eye to be too confused. Whoops. With the Viburnum opulus, with any flowers, but with some flowers perhaps more so than others, with the Viburnum opulus, I'm getting a nice clean cut with a knife, just to make it easier for it to take up that water. So nice clean cut. Obviously, I don't doubt for a second that your tools are all nice and sharp and nice and clean. You can always stick them in the dishwasher to clean them. If you do think, maybe they need a little bit of attention. I don't want this to be too busy. So I think I'm going to make this my last piece around this side. How's it looking from your side? Not bad, not bad, hey. I've got some oxeye daisies just from the end of the garden. Do I want, oh, yes. I was in two minds then whether to include them or not, but I think actually they do add quite a lot of beauty. Again, I've stripped the stem down quite a lot to give us the meadow feel, but without it being crazy busy. Going to rotate that one so it doesn't go too far out from our form, again from our shape here. So we're going to keep the square a little bit. This one's dancing out. I'm not worried about that. It's a balance. It's a balancing act between making it look really natural and also making it look as you want it to. You'd think that recreating nature would be quite a simple thing, but actually it's one of the most difficult things to do. But I don't think we're doing too much of a bad job here. Do you know what? I think I might make this, it's one of those things, isn't it? Just one more, just one more. Do you know what? You need to know when to leave it alone, don't you? So, with that said, let me take my own advice and I think call that done. There's no real right side, wrong side. There we go. What do you think? Hope you enjoyed that. Why not give it a go?